All right, Ashton Cantou, thank you so much for joining us for the Thoughts on Purpose podcast. It is an absolute privilege to have you here.
Nash, thank you. I'm really grateful to be here. I got to see you in your power the other night, and you blew me away. So, and you shared this beautiful intro on your Instagram the other day, and I thought, God, I'm just as honored as you're feeling to be here with you. So thank you.
Oh, I appreciate that. Guys, Ashton is an incredibly powerful life and leadership coach. Ashton helps people transcend fear and limiting beliefs to unlock their potential and create a life of alignment. Ashton is a coach's coach. Ashton is an absolute powerhouse leader, and I'm stoked for where this conversation is going to go, because as we were just discussing, you really tap into some areas that a lot of guests I've spoken to haven't really, that's not the area of expertise. So you really support those people who are already showing up on such a high level, take their game to another level, and that's a super exciting conversation. So yeah, thank you for being here, and thank you for your time, and yeah, let's get into this.
Let's do it. I'm ready to jam with you.
Let's do this. So
I'm going to let you guide me. I'm all yours.
Absolutely. So I want to find out about your story, but I'm going to do it in a slightly different way. Okay. So I want you to imagine a younger version of Ashton, be it 7 years old or whatever, a significant age for you. She bumps into the woman you are right now on the street. That young lady, what inspires her the most about the version of Ashton today, about who you are? What inspires her? 3 things that inspire her the most when she sees you and talks to you. What would they be?
I would say perseverance. Mm-hmm. One, she's overcome. I guess at this point have overcome a lot, and it's not just like the survival thing. It's like, for whatever reason, when those roadblocks hit, or I feel just torn down by life, I come back on a whole nother level. So I would say that perseverance is when I look in the mirror, I admire that woman. So the perseverance, the compassionate heart. I have an absolute, just massively compassionate heart for those who are in pain or suffering or in need. And it really transcends all judgment. Mm-hmm. So I say that. Mm-hmm. And the third would just, I guess, be hunger to serve. It's never enough, right? Like you talked about sleep habits, and I'm good with those. It doesn't keep me up at night because I know that I need that to function at my best. But I could do this in my sleep. I could do this for free. I have this hunger to show up, to help people. It doesn't matter what it is. Like I'm there. Like someone drops something, I'm there. So just this hunger to serve. The other one.
I love those. So that hunger to serve, because that's one thing. Like I know all the other things to be true about you. I feel those just in the times we've interacted already. So I believe those fully about you as well. The hunger to serve, because when I watch your content, when I hear you speak, that shines through. And when I watch your videos, I feel you connect on a heart and a soul level. It's not a surface level thing. You speak into the core. And that's what I really love about your content. Like I know when I see one of your videos come up, I'm like, oh, this is going to be rich. This is going to stir something. And that's what I love about, and that speaks to the fact that you have overcome some big challenges. I get that. Is that what's keeping you driven? Like, is that hunger to serve? Is that because you've overcome challenges yourself and you just want to support other people do that? Is that where that drive is coming from, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's the innate. In fact, this morning when I was working out, I was listening to one of these like motivational, I don't know, the music tracks with all the stuff. And there was one about know your why. And I remember reading a couple years ago, like, have a why that makes you cry. And I didn't really feel it. And then this morning, when I thought about the women that I'm serving, it came up, and I'm mid-workout, and I just felt felt that like little emotional, you know, release. And I'm like, I have it. I have my why that makes me cry. So that internal drive, that intrinsic motivation that I have is really, it's seeing my people. It's seeing them and where they're at, and also seeing where they could be, and recognizing that like I was there, right? And it's not about me anymore. It's not about, oh, I've overcome these things, so I want to help them. It's just actually seeing somebody where they're at and knowing that they're living way beneath their potential, or they're, you know, living in pain that they don't need to be living in, self-inflicted pain from their mind, right? So that's a big driving factor for me.
Yeah, I love that. Would you be open to speaking into some of the challenges you've overcome? Because I do understand that, you know, you've been on quite a journey.
Sure. Yeah, it's been a little bit of a ride.
Take us, you know, invite us into Ashton's journey.
Yeah. My little hardship started pretty young, and I think everybody's stuff, you know, their deeper stuff comes from childhood. I just uncovered some new stuff that I'm still kind of unpacking from when I was a kid. But, you know, limiting beliefs got thrown on me pretty young. This isn't anything heavy, but I struggled with anxiety, and almost like I couldn't handle change, like maybe like OCD a little bit as a kid. I don't have any trace of that anymore, but I really struggled. If something changed, I would have like an anxiety attack or a panic attack. And I'm talking like first grade, second grade, and ADD. And then we found out that I had like dyslexia and number dysgraphia. So all these things, I wasn't labeled special needs, but my first grade teacher told my parents I would never make it to college, to gear me towards a vocational school. So those are the things that I was told as a kid that I didn't understand until I was in this work, that's detrimental to.
Yeah, don't tell your kid that.
Self-esteem. And I remember my dad conditioning me, you know, not intentionally, but telling me that life was always going to be hard, that I was always going to learn the hard way, and that I was always going to learn through the school of hard knocks, and that I was always going to have to work harder than everybody to keep up. And you don't realize this, but those things that people say to you, they program you. And so it was. So I ended up living my life through the school of hard knocks. So we can kind of fast forward, you know, 10 years, 15 years, whatever. By the time I was 16, I went from being class president and team captain, sportsmanship award, up for homecoming queen, or princess, I guess you could. Mm-hmm. And my parents went through a divorce. And this is, I'm sure, common to many people's story. It rocked me to my core. And I went from having a very controlling father that had a ton of structure in my life to choosing to live with my mother, who was a healing woman who I forgive, but not present. And I just went wheels off. So I'm still dealing with anxiety. I have now been diagnosed with panic disorder, and I have no idea how to cope. So what did I turn to? Drugs and alcohol. So by the age of 17, I landed myself in rehab. And then this just continued, right? The drugs, I never think the Lord had any addiction, but I was an abuser, and I was really trying anything to escape. You know, self-medicating, anything. And I also had that adrenaline junkie kind of thing going. So I was pushing every limit, which I do, but now I do it in a healthy way, right? I'm always testing my limits and pushing my limits, but now I know how to do that healthily. I didn't then. And it took a toll. I mean, by the time I was 25, you know, we'll fast forward again, like I kind of did this. I would go up, and then I would sabotage, right? So I got out of the drug scene, and then I'm in college and I'm doing fine, and I'm drinking, then I get arrested. And I'm drinking again, and then I get arrested. So now I've gone to jail twice. And then I'm on my up, right? I'm on my upswing. I'm in grad school. I've got a 3.9 GPA. I'm modeling. I'm teaching first grade. I'm coaching basketball. I'm waiting tables on the weekend. Like, I'm living this amazing life, and I was so proud. I remember having a conversation with my family, saying like, they kind of like, look at me, look at how far I've come. They always say that pride comes before the fall. And I was out with my family for my birthday dinner for my dad. And this is when we were having this conversation. And I went out with one of my brothers that night, and I got slipped a date rape drug. And by the grace of God, I was spared from rape, but I ended up having a very adverse reaction that put me in front of an officer, and they were unable to arrest me because the drug caused muscular rigidity. So I ended up having just like horribly traumatic experience that I didn't know about, that I read about because I woke up in jail with bruises all over my body. So I was at that point a victim of police brutality, and my whole life went out the window, right? I was teaching first grade, so I had resisting arrest. I had all of these different charges on me that ended up getting dropped due to the fact that they were able to prove that I was, under an influence of something that I hadn't chosen to take. But unfortunately, it had a really tough impact on my self-esteem. And because of my history, my family put me right back to where I had been, right? It didn't matter all the progress I had made. They said, you're an F up. And this wasn't everybody in my family, but the people that I looked to for the validation and the approval. So, what did I do? I took that story on, that I was an F up that I was never going to be able to figure out. And I tried to run. I tried to outrun myself. Well, guess what? No matter where you go, you're there. Right. So I ran away. I ran away from Indiana. I moved to Texas, and I convinced a guy that I barely knew to go with me. And he ended up having borderline personality disorder. At this point in time, I have no job. I've got a master's degree with no job. I'm not depressed, but numb, almost like numb to life, just apathetic, just like not a care. Don't even care. I'm just here, right? Existing. But it got really dangerous. And I remember when I was in rehab, they told me, you're going to end up one of three places: jails, institutions, or death. And I had already checked jails off, right? And I was in an institution for that. And at one point in time, this guy came home, and it was already after I had been physically abused by him. And he told me I was about to see the meanest mother effer I'd ever seen in my entire life, and that he was going to tie my dog to the SHIT post to die. And something clicked in me that day. And I don't know what it was, but I decided to show up for myself. And I just got, I have no way else to. Started moving and changing when I decided to leave, and I made that decision, right? The root word of decide means to cut away from, and I made a decision to leave that situation with no job, nowhere to go, and just things just started clicking and falling into place. I started substitute teaching. The next day they offered me a position to come back. It was worth very little pay, but it had benefits. So I got that job, and then I started waiting tables in the evening. So I ended up working 7 days a week for about 4 or 5 months, roughly. And that was very different from the little life I was living just a few months prior. And I was scrapping, and I had no one. I was out in Texas all by myself, and it pushed me into purpose. It pushed me. I went to a church. I started going to women's groups, and the next thing I knew, I was leading these women's groups. And, that led me into helping out with these care baskets for battered women. And I know I'm just going all in. I'm just giving you the cliff notes, but this is just the dots. Like, people say, I got initiated. Like, I have no idea how else to explain this besides, like, I literally got initiated into this work, and it was a calling that I answered. So I'm there building these care baskets for these battered women, and nobody else could take them. So I offered to take them. And I show up to this, I thought it was a shelter, but it was a non-for-profit. When I got there, the woman said, "I've been praying for you. Where have you been?" And I was like, "What? Like, what are you talking about?" She's like, "No, but really." She's like, "I have been praying for you. You were born to be a blessing. You have to come to my event this Saturday. It's every second Saturday of the month. Just promise me you'll be there." I don't have a friend in the world. I've got 2 people in my life, Chris and Marty. And Chris is 78 years old, and Marty's like 60 something. And they are who helped me escape. They allowed me to use their Suburban, and Chris was a retired DEA agent. He would stand at the bottom of the stairs with his gun while I would run upstairs and gather as much stuff as I could and pack it into the Suburban each day while my ex was at work. And they were my only friends. So I was like, I'll be there, right? Because I've got nothing going on. So I went, and when I got there, there were over 300 women and children that they were serving. And these women they were in rehab, and they were battered women. 2 places that I had, 2 fires that I had walked through in my life. And when I got there, she said, "I want to introduce you." She pulled me up onto a stage. She handed me she had a little microphone. She's a tiny little lady. And she said, "I want to introduce you to our new board of directors, to our new board member." And I didn't even know what that was. Like, I had no idea. But in that moment, with all these people staring at you, what are you going to do? No, like, tell them no. And I just accepted. I accepted whatever was being presented to me in that moment. And I stepped in, and it just led me. It led me into mentorship, and I started coaching and mentoring these women. And next thing I knew, I was speaking, in front of these women, and I fell in love with this work. So I thought, okay, this is what I want to do with my life. And I cashed out my mutual funds to go to Life Mastery Institute. I remember calling my dad and saying, I don't have money to do anything. I didn't even know I had that, but I remember calling my dad and saying, I have to do this. I'm feeling so called to do this, and I don't have any money. I couldn't even get my nails done at that point in time. And I know that's not a big deal to you, but it was to me. So I found a way. Right. I found a way, and I did a 2-year program where you start working on your own stuff, and it was a spiritual based program. And I chose that because I knew I didn't get there on my own. I watched it happen almost as an observer, and I almost felt like I got carried at that period of my life. So I was like, I can't help people and act like I'm going to be the only one it's just going to be us. No, like there's something here. So I found something that aligned with my core values, and I went straight in for it. But that was kind of actually just the beginning, right, of the story.
Oh my goodness, what an incredible journey you've had so far. And it's no surprise to me hearing that because of the way you show up now, but I just need to acknowledge you for the way you continue to show up despite going through so many challenges. Because I think if a lot of people would face the 10th of what you'd face, that would be enough for them to quit. There's enough reason there for a lot of people to get overwhelmed and burned out and say, what's the point of continuing? Mm-hmm. And what I love and acknowledge and honor about you is you continue to put one foot in front of the other for whatever reason. I don't know what was causing you to do that and continue that drive inside of you, or something, that wisdom that knew that there must have been something bigger out there. But yeah, I acknowledge you for showing up, because it's the pattern I see in so many people's lives. They think their current circumstances are all that they'll ever experience. And, humans, we're all guilty of it. We get so bought into what we're facing to the point where we're like, how can life ever get better? But for some reason, I don't know what it was driving you. Must have been God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. There was something inside of you that knew. And then I love how you said you were being pushed into purpose, and then you literally got handed a microphone. You literally got handed this incredible gift, or this path. You got the door just open for you like that. And I know that was because you just continued to step. You continued to step despite the discomfort, despite the uncertainty. I love that. And yeah, again, I acknowledge you for everything you've done. You're talking a lot about now living in alignment. How does someone who's going through incredible challenges like that, really down and out in life, how do they step into alignment, and what does that even mean for someone who's facing a real challenge when you just want to survive?
So that initial step for me was surrendering, right? I recognized that I needed help.
Okay.
I was just almost to the point of hopeless. I just did not know what to do. So it was kind of that moment of okay, I'm willing to be guided. Once again, through prayer and just saying I have no idea how to navigate this water. This is awful and sticky and hard. And I feel like it's going to take me out. So please, anybody, send an angel, and just being willing and really, and professing that, declaring that out loud to the universe, to God, like you said, just to yourself even, right? There's a vibration to that. We're all connected. So just by declaring it, I feel like it just opened up the floodgate to support by saying I'm willing. So that was one of the key things for me, is just that surrender. It was the Kickstarter for allowing the support to flow in. But the other piece of that was I had to really face off with the fact that I was so out of alignment with my core values. Mm-hmm. Right? That integrity piece just rocked me, right? Mm-hmm. I was choosing from my level of what I felt I was worthy of rather than what I was deserving of, right?
Yes.
So it was a face-off of okay, I couldn't even really look at myself in the mirror at that point in time because I had been in self-betrayal so hard. And it was more of like, okay, ignore the woman you see in the mirror because she's not been showing up for you. Like, it was just kind of one of those moments like, scratch all this. Love her, accept her, whatever. But how about this? How about we focus on who we want to be? Who do I want to be? Who do I actually want to show up as? And I that's how I started. That was like, it was literally just ignoring my circumstance and getting locked into a vision, right? And that vision being connected to my core values. And then just doing the best that I could with what I had from where I was at to continue walking to the edge of the light that I could see, because I couldn't really see what was going to happen, but I could tell that I was being guided. I could feel it because I was in surrender and I was being open to divine guidance, right? So I was getting these intuitive hits like, okay, look this up or do this. And I listened. Did that answer the question?
That did. That's, I love this. This is amazing. How would you recommend, because I'm really determined to make this very tactical for people who are, they are really going through a challenging time. In those challenging times, how do you actually, what would you recommend people can do to actually tap into their core values? Like, what does that actually look like? What is that process? Very basically, what does that look like for someone? Is it just sitting down, asking yourself, what do I care about? What do I need? Like, what does that look like for you?
Okay, so I think two things can happen here that would help to get someone kind of unstuck. I feel like is kind of what you're alluding to, right? It's like someone who's feeling like they're in it. Yeah. One of the first things that they can do is actually look at their longings and their discontents, right? Like, where in their life are they longing for more, and where in their life are they actually discontented? Right. And I think by answering that question and getting really clear on those, it starts to reveal to you and uncover what matters to you, which is the question that leads to your core values, right? Like, what truly matters to me? What do I actually stand for? So what some of this, like, what was I so discontented in? I was so the fact that I had a lot of freaking turmoil going on, right? So that pointed me to, okay, what do I want my values to be? Peace. I want to have some peace. And I understand with growth that peace is not synonymous to comfort, right? It didn't mean that I wasn't going to be uncomfortable, but it meant that no matter the storm, that I felt grounded and anchored. So that just uncovering my discontent in that area led me to what mattered to me and allowed me to let that lead me forward. Or a longing, right? A longing to serve on a higher level. Like, education is such a gift. It was such a wonderful thing. And even when I first started my studies and I started doing my own transformational work, like, I still felt a little bit suffocated. I really felt like, I always say that living beneath your potential is suffocating. Yes. And it was. And it was so fun. I loved what I did and it was so healing. And yet there was still something that felt so repressed inside me. So, that longing for more, that longing for a greater impact and greater influence, right, showed me, and it revealed to me a core value, contribution, a core value of impact on a greater level. So I think that could be a good starting point for people who don't even know what they value and what they stand for.
Mm-hmm. That is gold. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you obviously talk a lot about transcending fear, because all of what you're sharing is like you're going against your old identity. You're going against this person you thought you were. You're stepping in and actually acknowledging your worth and acknowledging your power. Like, that is all going against old ways of being, and obviously you're going to come face to face with fear. And you've also just been in some very intense situations where, with police and, being just everything you shared in your journey. So a lot of fear, you're obviously, you've overcome so much.
I lived in fear. I used to absolutely live in fear. In fact, I had, PTSD. I would shake when I would see police. I from being, cheated on, I couldn't trust. I didn't trust myself, for sure. So I had a lot of like physiological responses, my nervous system was completely shot from fear. So
wow,
fear was real to me, but it's not. And That's the
What do you
thing.
mean by that?
It was a lot of projection, right? So, and fear can be, there's a healthy fear, but I think part of transcending fear is discerning fear. Okay. Some fear is real and some fear is just not. Some fear is what that acronym of the false evidence appearing real. And it may have been real in the past. It may have been an actual experience, but we don't want to take our past and future trip. We don't want to project and get scenario sickness. And that's what a lot of people do. So part of transcending it is just discerning what's real and what's not real, really questioning the narrative and questioning the story. And the other part of transcending it is like going straight in on it, like literally walking into the fire that you fear, walking into the cave that you fear. Like that's transcending. And a lot of people think that they need to be confident to do that, or it takes confidence, and it's just not true. Confidence is like, when you peel back the actual layer behind confidence, the word courage stands there, right?
I love that. I love that.
And that's what happens when you pull back courage. You see confidence, because confidence comes from being courage. It comes from you stepping into those courageous acts, not the other way around.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So asking yourself in the moment, is this fear real? Like, is this happening in this moment? Is this a legitimate threat in this moment?
Yeah.
That's a very powerful conversation. Ashton, obviously this is the Thoughts on Purpose podcast. So, I'm all about supporting people developing the right thinking, to live on purpose. Like, that's what I want for people more than anything. Developing the right mentalities, the right perceptions. Do you believe everyone on earth has a purpose?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Everyone on earth is purpose. I don't know. I feel like you kind of spoke to this a little bit, but I don't think it's something we chase or have to find. I just think it's who you are. I think you just, in your beingness of who you are, as who you woke up as this morning, like, that is purpose. Like, you are it, right? And it's just owning that gift. It's just showing up as the vibrant force of loving light that you are meant to be, and then choosing whatever vehicle you want to drive to get you to, like, deliver your gift to the world. So I think we wouldn't be here if without purpose. I think that's just who you are. You are purpose, and then, like, a passion might help you to find the vehicle of delivery, or a gift that you have, a unique gift that you have might be a vehicle of delivery. But even if you didn't uncover any of that, you already are.
I love that. You are purpose. I've never really heard it phrased like that. That's beautiful. I love that. And just, if people can just take that and hold that and acknowledge that, then that's that beautiful thing of just, yes, in this moment you are enough. You are it. Yeah. And what do you want to create from that space? That is a beautiful and powerful place to live from. Amazing, Ashton. Thank you so much. So obviously you've done an immense amount of transformational work. What have been some daily habits that you have personally implemented that you won't miss? They are your, like we spoke on the call, cornerstone habits. They are your oxygen almost.
Forgiveness work is one of my absolute must. I talk to my clients and the people I work with, just like, it's like brushing your teeth to me, because I believe that, when we're holding, and what this is mostly for myself more than anybody, like, I did not love myself because of what I had done to myself. I took more than just radical responsibility. I took on guilt, shame, and blame for me, no one else, right? So I was victim, but I was victim to myself. It wasn't like, oh, you did this. I just kept beating myself down. So forgiveness, I think, is what saved me, and it helped me have compassion. But I look at it as, like I said, brushing your teeth in the same way that when you're, well, this is going to be a weird transition into this analogy. So take that one. Now we're talking about toilets. So let's say, your pipes are clogged, yeah, right? The water is not going to flow. Resentment, anger, guilt, and shame are like a clogged pipe. Mm-hmm. And it literally puts a kink in the hose to abundance. When you are holding in those vibrational tones in your body, it blocks you from love's presence. Mm-hmm. So forgiveness is like your Drano, and it clears it out, right? but I say it's like brushing your teeth because you're not going to miss brushing your teeth. And that's how forgiveness is for me, because every day, because I had that massive inner critic or that inner mean girl, and I know everybody has that voice in their head that tells them they're not good enough, or that, shames them when they fall short of their perfectionism or whatnot. It just became such a great habit of releasing that, because those build up. One day of falling short, oh, I'm a failure. The next day of falling short, oh, I'm never going to make it. The next day of falling short, I might as well give up, right? So it's like these things start to stack. So it's like, okay, I put the brick on of falling short, and now I've forgiven myself so I can take that brick down. Instead of it building this wall to my blessings, I can keep that block. I can keep it clear.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I love that. So what would be a process for people if they are doing this on a daily basis? Is it journaling? Is it a mental technique? Like, what would you recommend for people to be detoxing from?
I forget which one this is called, and I have a guided it depends on how deep you need to do it, but if it's just like for yourself on a regular basis, or if it's just kind of a rinse repeat for someone else, I like to do I love put my hands over my heart, and I love and accept myself fully and completely. I forgive myself, especially if it's just something in the moment where I catch myself beating myself up. That's an easy one that I can just be like, get out of here, mean girl. But also, I love and accept myself fully and completely. May I be truly happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I live with ease. I forgive myself. And then I do that for anybody that's ever hurt me. I probably do 3 to 4 people a morning in that. And then if something major comes up, or if I have a past trauma trigger, I'll go back to the situation, and I'll go back and I'll tell that person everything they did to hurt me mentally, and everything, and then I move into everything I learned from it. And then I move into my CEO perspective, the compassionate, empowered observer perspective, recognizing that every act is an act of love or a cry for it, and that hurt people. And then I let them know that I forgive them. I imagine them as a scared little boy or scared little girl, and then I let them know that I forgive them. So just depending on the level of pain.
Yes.
And it depends on the depth of the forgiveness work that I do. But
that is so beautiful. I love how you're doing this every single day as well. Like, this is, it's definitely not something I'm doing. And I'm actually, like, as you're saying this, I'm thinking, wow, I could leverage this and use this. This would be so, so valuable. And, I've done a lot of work, but I could even still, I'm like, this would be such a valuable tool.
It cleans up the energy. It cleans up your vibrational field, because, when we look at that, the map of consciousness, not most of my clients, but many of my clients come in around that guilt and shame or anger and resentment, or even pride. And even that can use a little forgiveness around, right? So it starts to move people up into this neutral state, or a state of maybe even gratitude or appreciation from the self. And once we're there, we can start working and building dreams.
Yes.
So to me, it's like foundational.
1,000%. I love that. Ashton, I could talk to you for so long, but I want to make sure that I'm respectful of your time. So I want to connect people with what you do, because again, you're a gift to this world, and the work you do is so profound, and it's the journey you've been on. Like, I as you're speaking, there's so many people who I speak to who I have been completely down and out. Just recently I was speaking to a gentleman, and he was explaining to me how his father had called the police on him for some reason, and that had really challenged him, and he'd taken that on, and he was letting that define him. But I know for him, hearing this conversation now, like, this will just stretch his mind and be like, wow, there's people out there, such as yourself, who have had, actually had suffered at the hands of the police even. And this will just stretch his mind to actually what's possible, and not allow those kind of things to define him. And that's just one example of people who I know. So thank you for being so real and vulnerable. I appreciate that. How can people get amongst what you're doing, and how can people join forces with you in life?
Can I say something to your guy?
Yeah, please do.
I just posted on this yesterday, but the question of, what if your pain has an assignment? And I really encourage anybody who is going through something and they don't understand to ask that question. What is this? Where is this pain trying to lead me? What, we've heard, what is life trying to teach me? But we cannot fall victim to these things. We have to leverage them. We have to use these failures as our stepping stones, right? So I would just encourage you to go inward and really think, like, if I really look at this pain as an opportunity, where is it trying to lead me? Because I think that's what happened with me. I didn't realize that that's what was happening, but it was leading me somewhere. They say your mess is your message, your pain is your purpose, whatever. So just get introspective. Instead of falling victim to the circumstance, see how you can leverage it as an opportunity. And my website, go ahead.
Where is this pain leading me? That was the question. I love it. I love it. Sorry, now I interrupted you. Go on.
And then my website is getting some final touches. We had it redone. So it's just ashtoncantou.com. But I'm also on Insta. Yes. You can find me there. Ashton Cantou. And that's probably the best place to connect. I love connecting with people in direct messaging and supporting them with their questions. I also do complimentary discovery calls. So I would always enjoy hopping on and connecting and seeing how I can serve you.
Absolutely. Your Instagram's super inspiring. I love it. I love following you. And again, your content's always so rich and got so much wisdom and depth to it. Can we speak into quickly how you support people? Like we mentioned, you're someone who actually supports leaders lead better in many ways. Why does that work inspire you? Like, why do you choose to do that work when you've obviously you can connect with people who have been, through real challenging times and really been, really struggled on that deeper level, but now you choose to step in and support people on their missions, leaders. Why do you choose to step into that work as well?
That came in pretty heavy for me in the past 2 years. So I'd already kind of started this work, and I really started in the transformational life coaching, and it's still a big part of what I do. But I told you that I was doing leadership coaching for high performance with educators, and seeing a couple of things, both in the educational space and online, around the types of leadership that I was noticing. And Alexi Panos is one of my first mentors, and Alexi is by far one of the best transformational leaders out there, in my opinion, right? And what she taught me was about leadership from embodiment. And then with the leadership coaching for high performance and what I was seeing with educators, what I saw was a lot of leadership that was more like managerial. It was more like control, not empowering, not building up teacher efficacy and leading people to lead themselves. And then what I saw, because I was, coaching the principals of these schools, was that they were burning out because they were trying to control everything. They also created codependency with people. And then they also had people who were not they were not empowered or creative or able to lead their own ideas. And then you shift to the online space and you see all these influencers who you couldn't tell what their core values are if you had a microscope on their page, and you don't really know what they stand for, but so many people are following them. And then you have these amazing leaders who, once again, are burned out, and they have the biggest vision, the most beautiful mission to impact, but they can't do it because their hands are in everything. They have this need for control. Yeah. So these are some patterns that I kind of saw across the board that I realized that I had mastered, that I was able to step into embodiment. I don't teach on things that I don't live. Mm-hmm. You're not going to be teaching, here's how to be a millionaire or whatever. No, I'm not teaching that. Maybe one day. I'm open to it.
Believe it.
But embodiment, right? So that's the first thing. Empowering people to be self-leaders, to lead themselves. So teaching leaders how to coach. Right? How to coach their people and ask powerful questions so that they can go find their own answers, so that they can clear up their space to be in the zone of genius that they need to be in. And then also just releasing control. I was very, I was raised in a very controlling household, and I picked up on those patterns, and it caused a lot of stress and burnout very early on for me. And when I see these leaders, once again, with great visions and huge missions to impact, and they're just kind of like already so young, moving into burnout because they have no boundaries. They don't know how to delegate, and they're trying to control everything. Being able to free a leader up from that so that they can empower their people and focus on scaling in a way that really feels meaningful and impact, just like in alignment for them. It's really rewarding because it impacts the organization. And I know that by touching this one person, it's going to have a ripple effect.
Yes. And it goes, yep, that's amazing. I love that. Can I just ask quickly, how do you support people?
We're here now. Let's go.
So people in leadership positions who are, because a common trait I've noticed with a lot of leaders is they want to micromanage, they want to control every little bit because it's their baby. Often if it's in the case of a business or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
How do they delegate but not be controlling? How do they, what does that even look like for someone who is at the moment very controlling and they have to let go of the reins? How does that process even work?
It's a kind of a twofold. So we first get really clear on the company as a whole, the organization as a whole, and what it stands for, what the core values are again, and how, instead of them looking, I learned this from my mentor, Susie Batiste. I've had plenty of mentors, but I don't know if you're familiar with Susie. She's the founder of Poopery, the spray.
Okay, yes.
Just named one of Forbes' richest self-made women. Like, I just fell in her lap and she's been incredible. But something that she taught me was when she had this issue in her own business, right, in Poopery, and it was exhausting for her. Lots of energy leaking, thinking that she had to be the face and that if she wasn't there, everything would fall apart. Yeah. So what she did was she created a persona for the company. Mm-hmm. And everyone that she hired in and everybody that was already in started to get trained up on these intentions and trained up on these values so that they would all start embodying almost like one organism rather than these different little random branches that were functioning in whatever direction they wanted to. She brought them into formation, right? And they were all starting to streamline to the same vision, to the same mission, to the same core values. And I see in schools or other organizations, this is something that a lot of people have on the wall, but they're not embodying it. They're not holding anybody accountable to it. They're not leading from the space. So that's one of the first things is we look at the culture and we look at how are you showing up as the person that you want. Because when you start leading yourself, you're going to empower people to lead themselves. When you have a very clear idea of how you want your people to show up, then you can, and you know that they're going to start embodying these things, you start to build trust with them. So you start to say, oh, okay, like I see that they're living out these things that I say, that I stand for. So I think part of it is getting your people on the same page and then starting to slowly reel back as you start to see them step into the embodiment of those things. Mm-hmm. The other thing is the hiring process and really looking across the board of like who you have, who are your key players and who do you need, who do you not have, right? And getting clear as the leader on what's your zone of genius and what is your zone of excellence. So many leaders are operating, or business owners are operating in their zone of excellence. They're great at managing people. They're great at running payroll. They're good at numbers, right? They're good at these things, but it's an energy suck and they don't even enjoy it anymore. So we start to get clear on like, what would light you up? Let's follow your biggest expansion. Let's follow the most aliveness. And we're literally going to cut away everything that doesn't align with that, right? So then we have this list of all the things that are left that they want to hold on to, but don't align with what brings them most alive. And then we look at their key players. Okay, who can actually take that? Who can you train up? The next piece of this is we might have to train some people, right? We have to train. So then we start looking at trainings, and then it's like, okay, well, there's nobody here that would actually be good for that. So now we need a hire. Okay, so it's starting to kind of pick and pull apart what they've been taking on, and then divvying it out accordingly.
Yeah, I love that. And I love what you said there, the zone of genius and the zone of excellence. I've never heard those two put together because it's like, yes, you're very good at certain things, but it's not the genius zone. And also what you said there about delegating and also bringing people in. Trust was the key word. Trust was the key word because that is ultimately what all of this stems from. The more you can trust and believe and have faith in other people's ability, that does come down from obviously people doing their own work and believing in themselves. But when we invite other people to support us and we allow ourselves to let go of the reins, we actually give them the opportunity to step into their power as well, which is a beautiful gift. And you know, I can see how the work you do is just compounding and having such a big impact. So I'm so grateful we got to this conversation today. I'm so honored to have, you know, found out more about your journey and be in the presence of someone who's overcome so much adversity and still showing up so powerfully. So thank you. I ask this to all my guests, and you might know it if you watch my interviews already, but if you were able to get access to the back end of the biggest sites in the world, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the biggest platforms, and you had 1 or 2 minutes to just share a message with the world right in this moment, what would you pump out to billions of people if you could? What would be the message?
My gosh, I guess I didn't catch the end of your last one. That's pretty perfect. Well, you know, I'm a Christian, so I'm going to start with, you know, you need to connect to a higher power. You know, whether you call him God, you need to be in alignment with your power source. The power that's breathing you right now, that woke you up this morning, is with you. And when you recognize that God is one presence, one power, one connection, and you are a part of that, you know, you recognize that the power breathing you is greater than any circumstance that you ever face. And you're in attunement with that power, that presence, you can trust yourself. And when you can trust yourself, you can take on the world. So I think that, just that internal Godfidence is what gives me my ability to continue stepping. And I would encourage each of you to find that, whatever that is for you, that feeling of connectedness and presence, literally presence and love, because that is your nature. And from that's where you feel inspired, right? Because you're in spirit. And when you're inspired and in spirit, you can take on the world because you can trust yourself.
Yes, I love that. What was that word you used? Godfidence. Mm-hmm. Oh, is that your own invention?
I heard that somewhere. I have no idea where, but I use it. And until somebody shows me the trademark, I'm going to use it. Yeah. I'm not going to trademark it because I know I heard it somewhere. But
I love that. I've never heard that. That is awesome.
Yeah, and it's recognizing that you don't have to do this on your own strength. Once again, you can surrender. You can ask for guidance. You can literally have access to divine intelligence. You are an infinite being. Mm-hmm. So by opening your corner of your mind to this idea, anything is possible. Literally anything is possible. And you can transcend, you can quantum leap things that you thought you couldn't do, you know, for 5 years. Your 5-year vision can collapse.
Yes.
This practice of opening yourself up to the power breathing you. So
and that phrase, the power breathing you, that speaks to me so deeply. I love that. Ashton, thank you so much. This has been an absolute joy for me. So thank you so much for your time, your energy. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you get behind Ashton's amazing work. I'm going to have all links below. Wherever you're seeing this, there'll be links, there'll be tags, there'll be all the good stuff you need to get behind Ashton's work. So Ashton, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for the way you show up in the world. Appreciate you.
Back at you, Nash. Thank you. I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun.